After a disastrous 2022 season under Nathaniel Hackett, the Broncos hired legendary Saints head coach Sean Payton to turn around the Denver Broncos. We would have all thought heading into 2023 that this team would be a juggernaut, but there are some deep issues. Albeit, you would have never known that the Denver Broncos offense has dramatically improved if all you have done is paid attention to the mainstream media. An offense that was dead last under Nathaniel Hackett with 16.9 points per game is actually right in the middle of the pack this year with 23 points per game. But that's not the reason the Denver Broncos are as horrible as they are, believe it or not. Because in week 3 of the 2023 NFL season, the Denver Broncos done something that hasn't been done since 1966, which is allow a team to have 70 points scored against them. And that's considering the overwhelming amount of generosity the former Denver Broncos ball boy and current Miami Dolphins head coach Mike McDaniels gave the Broncos by electing to not score the most points in NFL history. Despite mainstream media having a weird obsession of an overbearing amount of hate towards Russell Wilson, he's not the problem. The fact is, people put on their shades to blind the fact that the Denver Broncos through week 3 have the worst defense in NFL history. And in case you don't know, the 1981 Colts have the current overall worst points per game allowed with 33.3, and the Broncos are on pace to absolutely sail past that, and it has been absolutely detrimental to year 1 of Sean Payton. So, knowing what you know, if you can't tell, the culprit to why this team is historically awful is defensive coordinator Vance Joseph. And mind you, he was the 2017 head coach of the Denver Broncos, who followed up with a 5-11 season post Super Bowl 50, which led him to being a one-and-done head coach for the Broncos. So when we all found out that Vance Joseph was Sean Payton's hand-picked defensive coordinator on his staff, we all kind of shrugged our heads thinking, why would the Denver Broncos choose this guy again? Needless to say, with a few good seasons, Vance doesn't have the most impressive resume for defensive coordinator, given 2 seasons that he had with the Cardinals. In 2019, his defense gave up 27.6 points per game, and in 2022, his defense gave up 26.4 points per game, which is way above league average. When you line everything up, you sit and scratch your head when you know that the Denver Broncos in 2021 only allowed 18.9 points per game, and in 2022, 21.1 points per game. So how in the heck, come week 3, the Broncos are averaging 40.7 points allowed per game? Well, some can argue that it is a personnel issue, which, hey, I would absolutely agree with you. This is also a big Vance Joseph issue. Now, the Broncos absolutely have been cursed with injuries, especially on the defensive side of the ball. They also lack a ton of depth, especially at safety and corner. But come on now, no matter what the personnel issue is, 70 points is absolutely unexcusable, and that's why this absolutely falls on defensive coordinator Vance Joseph. So how does a defense that under head coach Vic Fangio's tenure and the 1 year under defensive coordinator Ejiro Evero's tenure go from one of the most menacing defenses to one of the most historically bad and utterly embarrassing teams in the NFL? Well, guys, you're in luck, because since I am a very discouraged and disheartened Broncos fan, I might know a little tidbit that you don't. When defensive coordinator Vance Joseph came in this season, instead of deciding to use his own defensive concepts and mind, he decided to, instead of installing his defense, to let the guys teach him Ejiro Evero's defense. Now, while Vance Joseph has run a 3-4 defense throughout his defensive coordinating career, just alike to Ejiro Evero's defense on the 2022 Broncos, it's clear that the verbiage and the concepts and when to call specific plays are just not picking up for him. This became way too apparent in week 3 when Vance Joseph decided to run a 4-3 package when the personnel on the team has not learned a 4-3 package through the entire duration of training camp. Overall, the defense and the team as a whole has been an utter embarrassment when it comes to discipline, averaging 8.7 penalties per game, which is 2 ticks more than 2022. The defense is also -4 in turnovers, which means, hey, when you're going out there and you're not winning the turnover battle, 9 out of 10 times, you are going to lose that game. Coming week 4, the Broncos are at an historic pace to be the worst defense in NFL history, believe it or not. And for those who have had a close eye on the Broncos this season, it's blatantly obvious that they are on track to definitely be the worst. I mean, there is no doubt, coming from a guy who has sat through 70 points being scored, 122 points over 3 weeks, the Broncos and Vance Joseph are just not a marriage that is going to last even through the 2023 season. As you see on the screen, the defense absolutely just given up come the second half of the game. And when your defense is quitting on your defensive coordinator come week 3, oh boy, you are in for a long season. There is no saving this defense, who clearly just doesn't have the discipline and just runs terribly poor coverage. And Vance Joseph, boy, does he love soft shell, which easily allows any quarterback to dink and dunk and get the underneath with every single time they throw the ball. It is just an awful state for the 2023 Denver Broncos and probably years to come. For those who are wondering why defensive coordinator Vance Joseph hasn't been fired after absolutely embarrassing this team, if I had to take a guess, it's just because head coach Sean Payton doesn't want to admit that he messed up come week 3 and is hopeful that somehow this ship will turn around. However, 2 of the most winnable games for the Denver Broncos come back-to-back weeks, with the Chicago Bears in week 4 and the New York Jets in week 5, where they can turn 0-3 into 2-3. And if that isn't the reality for the Denver Broncos, then hey, you should absolutely count this season as a failure. Overall, only time will tell within these next 2 weeks whether or not the Broncos can turn the ship around and if Vance Joseph can really put the doubt in him to end. Because with the 2 easiest opponents that they have for the entirety of the 2023 season, it is time to put up or shut up for the Denver Broncos. And to be honest, as a Broncos fan myself, I'm not confident, because I just do not think that Vance Joseph came into this team with the idea of teaching a defense to the players, rather doing it ass backwards and trying to learn a defense from the players, which has put this team weeks behind in progress. And to be honest, I think the Broncos will be in the pool for Caleb Williams. So guys, let me know your thoughts on the Broncos this season. Are you impressed with Sean Payton and his decisions to bring in Vance Joseph? What was your thoughts initially, and what are your thoughts on the seasons coming? Make sure to leave all your thoughts down below, and if you haven't yet, subscribe to the channel, as we will keep constant tabs on the 2023-24 NFL season. Thank you guys for watching, and I will see you all later.